Well, I definitely took meetings with like Warner Brothers and, you know, I definitely got a lot of emails from A&R people who were excited when I first was on like absolutepunk.net with my little MP3s. And I remember going to like meetings with people and them being all excited to meet me and then them not really knowing my music at all. They just had the meeting because someone told them to set it up. So I was like, this is like no different than a fraternity, like where you have to be in a club. Doesn't matter. You could just be anyone. You could be anonymous. And once you're not playing like shows at the community center, there's more on the line, right? And it's like you have to have a profit margin that justifies all of the overhead for that sort of like culture to exist as like a mass culture capitalist endeavor that was growing at that rate. So being someone who's like, I don't know, there's an irony here because I grew up in a wealthy part of California, right? To be like, oh, I'm punk. If like Warner had been like, here's $1 million and you can own all your masters and we'll get you on tour with Weird Al and all that, like I'd be like, okay, well maybe I can bend my my ideals a bit. But it was convenient that I was like, but the funny thing is, like I wrote that song before, a lot of the stuff came to be that I was writing about. I don't know. I definitely got to meet a lot of people who were like the Marty character. Like he was an amalgam of a lot of different people. And I look back at some of the characters in Signing Emo, like Blake ends up being a guitar teacher, teaching guitar, and people love his song, his hit. And I think that's kind of a cool legacy. Like now being a 41-year-old guy, like the fact that people like my songs I wrote in my 20s still and care enough to listen to it, like that's tight. Like that's pretty tight. I'm sure you guys agree. Like to have people who are still checking for stuff you did years ago isn't a sign of like being washed up. It's actually a sign of having done something tight and still being like connected to that energy of what drove you and kept you going. So I look at Blake differently now, you know?
Now, didn't Hot Topic actually make merch out of your Hot Topic is not punk rock?
Dang. Yes. I'll tell you that story.
Let's hear it.
They were pissed initially, right? When that came out. And then they wanted to be in on the joke. So they did they did window displays listing with everything that I had in the song. I was like, yes, we've got everything that Lars said. He's been marketing to us. And I was like, let's do it. And they're like, they hit me up. Let's do a shirt. I was like, cool. It has to say Hot Topic is not punk rock on the back. Okay, cool. But last minute, people wouldn't let them do it. So it was just post-punk laptop rap on the back or whatever. But they still did a shirt, which was kind of fun. You know, they're in on the joke. But I ended up, I played the Hot Topic stage at like Bamboozle around that time. Like I did a lot of things where I ended up working with stuff that they sponsored and everyone was a little salty and a little frustrated with me. And they still, and like in 2012, remember everyone thought the world was going to end in 2012.
Yep.
On Instagram, they had an end of the world checklist, things to do before the world ends. And one of them was like, punch MC Lars. Is that punk rock enough for you? That was on Instagram. So I was like, wow, that's 6 years later. They still were feeling some sort of way.
Feeling salty.
They're salty.
Hot Topic would have sold a lot more shirts if they just went with Hot Topic is not punk rock.
Yeah. And just not even MC Lars, right? Make that the front.
Yeah, that's the shirt. That shirt would have sold. They would have made $1 million on that shirt.
That's so funny. That was, and the story behind that song was I finished that record, The Graduate, and like we were like, we needed one more song. So I wrote that literally in 5 minutes, right? I just went on their website and listed everything that they had that day. And then the matches, and I just went in and recorded it real quick. It was actually based on a riff from my first band, Amphoteric, that bass riff that Justin played. And Bay Area radio really liked that song. Aaron from Live 105 really championed it, which I appreciate because like there was a time when I would play in the Bay and shows were always popping, and they still are good there. But like the fact that the matches were on that track, people knew them locally, and it on the radio was tight. And I was kind of saying something true. And you know what? When I wrote that song, I was like, has anyone ever written a song like this? So I Googled it, and Fat Mike had said Hot Topic is not punk rock in some interview, like in 2006, and I was like, that's cool. Fat Mike said that. So I guess he said it first, but I didn't get it from him. You know what I mean? reverse
Yeah.
research that he'd said that. So
Yeah.
memory lane.
So in the last few years, recently, you've been pretty active on social media, and quite a bit of your content, I feel like, is ska and ska meme oriented.
That's true. It gets engagement.
Is it like, I'm just curious, like, are you just, do you find yourself being drawn more to it, or just do you feel like it's just good content?
I listen to a lot more ska now, and I definitely love like the fourth wave ska bands, and like I'm always excited about new stuff, and I'm always so like I listen to more ska than I did probably when I wrote Robot Kills, but I don't know, man. There's so much political memes, you know what I mean? And like ska memes, like I did one that was Skamala Harris. I found that on Reddit.
Yeah.
That was fun. But I think it's, yeah, there's like not very many monocultures in 2024. There's like wrestling for me in my sphere. It's like wrestling is one that stayed big, like ska, Roger Rabbit, Juggalos. Like these are all things that I always touch on because they last. People remember them.
There's a culture around Roger Rabbit,
Well, I am
or just you?
I'm very obsessed with that movie still. There's a lot of good Roger Rabbit memes, and there's a lot of people who do
Okay.
YouTube videos. Yeah, it's definitely like my son is 4, and he's the only one in his preschool class who's ever heard of Roger Rabbit because of his dad. But like, those are things that like from my sphere that I still am excited about. And so I'm always posting about. Yeah, but I don't know. How do you feel about that? Like, Aaron, does that feel kind of like, you're like, well, Lars isn't just a ska artist. Is he capitalizing on that because of that being his biggest Spotify song? Or I appreciate your honest perspective. There's no right answer.
Well, I mean, I can't speak to what your motivation is. Only you can.
The ska memes tickle me. And I think they tickle the people who follow me on social media because a lot of them are following me because of that song. So it's like, why not try to placate that algorithm? That does sound kind of like Orwellian to admit.
And you got the Ska's Not Dead hoodies.
Yeah, those are coming back. If you guys want, I'll hook you up. I'll mail you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Oh yeah.
Okay, after this, let me know your size and I'll
just bring them to the Matches show on September 21st at the Fillmore with the Omnigon featuring MC Lars opening.
That's tight. I have to admit that I have to go to Little Rock for a comic convention that weekend.
Okay.
But my heart will be there. So yeah.
Your heart will be there, though.
I'm sorry.
We'll get like a projection screen of you doing your guest verses.
Well, the hologram.
Yeah. Okay, a hologram.
So how do you feel about the mozzarella stick meme? I once heard ska described as the sound.
I like that meme a lot. That's funny and that's true.
Do you relate to that?
Yeah. I mean, gosh, there's so much stuff that sucks about being an adult, and there's so much stuff that sucks about being a human in 2024. But like, here's kind of my like hot take on ska, right? Because like so much music is AI now. So much of our culture is AI. But like to have 7 people, 12 people making loud music and somehow being cacophonous and melodic at the same time and joyful and getting it together is hard because like, first of all, it's very hard to have that be a profitable endeavor when the way you make music is just AI it and put it on with some meme on Spotify. And so it's like, they're doing it for the love, even if they're huge, like Streetlight, like, it's a big thing to have a band that big. And the fact that like a good ska song can be timeless. You can be talking, it's like Shakespeare, right? King Lear is like relevant because like it's relevant now and it will be relevant in 20 years because the whole foibles of not being able to trust people and not being able to trust your kids or whatever, like just the fact that we're all messed up, right? That's what makes Shakespeare timeless. If you can write about timeless themes with instruments that resonate molecules that are actual instruments, not being played by robots, that's tight. So anyway, that's why it's like mozzarella sticks, because that joy is timeless. And yeah, I just thought of something. Tonight I read Calvin and Hobbes to my son for the first time. He's 4. And he loved it. Like for like an hour, we were reading all the comics, like he loved it because it's like the drawings are funny and like the snowmen and Hobbes coming alive. But I love it because it's like the philosophy and stuff. And I think that's why it's carried on so much. But that's an example of something that's very human, right? And that he refused to market it. And so ska music is kind of like Calvin and Hobbes in that it's like, first of all, resonant with the 90s.